What's up, Pats fans? We're back. Pat's Tailgate Party Podcast. Following the holidays, we hope everybody out there had a happy holiday. We're on the other side of 2023, so happy 2023 to everybody out there. We'll get kicked off. A lot of stuff to go over today. A lot of stuff to talk about. Bill couldn't be with us today. He's got some work he's catching up on, but we got four of us here. My name's Michael Lakis. You can find me on a member of Boston Sports Journal. If you haven't gone to Boston Sports Journal yet to look at Patriots coverage or just check it out, if you're a Boston sports fan, you need to do it. BostonSportsJournal.com, BostonSportsJournal.com. Greg Bedard puts on the best product you can find, and it's bar none the best, especially when it comes to your Patriots coverage. So check it out, BostonSportsJournal.com. I am Pat's Socks, Celts, Brews on there, and everyone here is a member. So we'll go around the room, see how everybody's doing today, and then we'll get going. Go to my left or my right. Can't ever tell which way it's going to be on the screen, but over this way or this way. Andrew, how are you doing today?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm good. It's good to be with you guys. Winter coats on Boston Sports Journal.
The voice of reason in the comment section. Oftentimes will go below me. He looks like me. It's because he's my father, Doug Lakis. How are you today?
Hey, happy New Year, guys. Glad to be back with you. Coach Stradamus on BSJ.
Awesome. He also looks like Andrew because Andrew's my brother. All right. Below him, speaking of that, we'll go to Mike Davis. Mike Davis, how are you?
Fine. Unbelievable week in the NFL, I think. Not like any other week we've ever seen before.
No.
And on BSJ, I'm Mike and Stoneman. I'm excited to get into this with a little more nuance than maybe you might hear on talk radio or something, with some really smart, knowledgeable guys on this call. So awesome. I hope maybe this gives some people something to process and deal with for those that might actually want to.
That's well said. I think it's really well said. We'll start there. It's interesting. It's in a normal time frame. It's Bills week, big rivalry, and so on and so forth. But you probably see behind me, I got a jersey of a guy and a picture of a guy who on Monday night, if you didn't see the game, should look at it. Not that the video should be really shared or anything like that, but Damar Hamlin. Or I think it's in the first quarter or second quarter. I can't remember the time. First quarter, right? It's a 7-3 game. And T. Higgins catches a pass, normal NFL play, goes in, hits Hamlin kind of in the chest with a shoulder pad. But again, normal play, trying to get some extra yards. Hamlin grabs on, takes him to the ground, gets up, adjusts his face mask for a couple seconds, and then literally collapses back to the ground. Ambulance comes out. They perform CPR on him for 9 minutes. And then I think it was 19 total before took him to the ambulance to the hospital. And now we know that he had cardiac arrest and he had to be resuscitated and have CPR and oxygen on the field. And then now update today's Thursday, update. He's awake, which is just fantastic news. And I think everything I've read, I've been trying to keep up with it on Twitter as much as possible, but he's awake and he hasn't spoken words, but he's writing some things. I think the first thing he wrote, "Who won the game on Monday night?" Doctors replied, "You won at life, Damar. So you're alive and you won at life," which is a pretty cool response. So anyway, I want to pass it to the group. I mean, to your point, Mike, I mean, for me personally, I'm watching the game. I'm invested in the game. It's, I'm looking forward to the game, and that happens, and everything is flipped on a dime. It was pretty amazing to me to see. I've never seen anything like it, but I'll pass it to you guys and kind of get your thoughts on what you thought.
Well, I can speak from some experience. Back in 2007, a young man player from Reynolds High School, died on the field, and that was the week before we had to play them, and it was an emotional week. Didn't know if we were going to play the following Friday night. We did wind up playing. Something, and there was a lot missing on that Friday night. The game was kind of secondary, but you kind of go about your business, and um, you have to do a lot of, there's a lot of tough conversations you have during the week. And I think the Bills have probably had a bunch of those, and are probably still having a bunch of those. But it's something that you don't ever forget. And even if it's not something that happens to your team or someone that, you're involved, you're involved. And it's something that it's different, and it's not something you ever want to go through again. I can just say.
Andrew, Mike, any thoughts just on, I think as I was watching the game, probably, I think what kind of comes to mind initially when it happens is, we've seen, I think, guys get hurt and guys get injured, and neck injuries, and people take, face masks taken off, and people taken off on stretchers. It hit me when they were showing, like Josh Allen's face and some of the guys' face when they're openly weeping on the field. I realized this might be something a little bit different. I initially was worried the guy had literally died on the field. Like I was concerned because I'm watching that going, oh my God, like this is, my next thought goes to, and we can discuss this also, and I guess we'll get there, is, and it didn't really hit me until the next day, but I was trying to think to myself, I'm looking at these guys, they're talking about what's going on. They're showing their faces, this, that, and the other. And then the news comes through that they have, like, once he's taken off the field, they have 5 minutes to warm up and get back to playing. And I was kind of like, that seems that, I don't know, that just, I don't know about that. Like 5 minutes, they just watched the guy, especially they had known at the time they had CPR and he had to be resuscitated. And I'm thinking, man, I don't know if they can play this game. Certainly that. And then we know they didn't, right? They postponed the game. They haven't played and they're not rescheduling it this week. Bedard has a great article on Boston Sports Journal about what they may do if necessary. But I was shocked. Like it hit me the next day going 5 minutes. Like I'm trying to picture myself at work, a coworker's beside me. He or she falls out on the ground. Somebody rushes in, gives him CPR for 9 minutes while I'm watching. Then they get put in an ambulance and my boss comes in and says, hey, take 5 minutes and get back to work. And I'm just thinking, I wouldn't know what to do with that. So I think it's a big shout out to Zach Taylor and McDermott for essentially saying, screw that. We're going to take him to the locker room, or we're going to talk and take as much time as we need. But those are some of my initial thoughts on it. Mike and Andrew, I don't know if you guys had how you were feeling in the moment or what you saw or how it hit you.
There's 50 years of precedent that they broke, right? I mean, for years it's been the show has to go on, right? And I don't mean in showbiz, but I mean, it's just the way football players and athletes have been trained. Like you compartmentalize it, you move on to the next play. And it was really remarkable to see the coaches stop the production and stop the game and say, no, the show's not going on this time. We're not just moving forward. This is not business as usual. And that, really the message came from the people, from the coaches, from the players saying, this is different this time. This isn't like however many, 3-4 different times when players have been carried off the field in stretchers and ambulances and we just kept going. This is different. We're going to treat this differently. And the only thing I can compare it to is 9/11, right? Where they actually stopped the league because they stopped the rest of the world. This is this is a time when the rest of the world didn't stop, but this league said, no, we're stopping right now. We're not moving forward right now. And that's why everybody's sort of thinking about it.
For sure. Andrew, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts. I'll lead with this. And we don't talk about this much on this podcast, but from a fan perspective, my love and honestly obsession with the NFL is probably one of the greatest contradictions in my life, like in terms of my values and how I move through the world, what I do for a living, how I think about society and like the world I want my kids and grandkids to have. Like it is inherently violent. It and I'm not saying this is good or bad, but it's big business. And the people who get most wealthy off of it, players get paid. They do not make the kind of wealth that the people in the teams do. And so I just think for me, these moments are just a really hard but powerful inflection point. No grand, and there's no chest thumping, there's no like grand statements of purpose. But I just think these moments always make me think, like, as a fan, like, you know, what does it mean to love this game and love the sport and know that every single time, any single player could be Damar Hamlin. And by the way, to Dad's point, this happens at the high school level, it happens at the college level, it happens at the youth level. I've long thought that football is not long for this world, that we're probably a generation or two away from it not really being a sport. When you look at the head trauma, and I just think this for me is first and foremost, I'm really glad he seems to be recovering and doing well. That is the most important thing. I'm really glad they broke precedent, Mike Davis, and didn't go back out and play about trauma and how trauma affects the brain. Like, asking those guys to then go put their lives in jeopardy without full focus and attention would have been malpractice, to be honest. That makes me wonder about this week. Like, even if the players want to rally for Damar and play this game, what mental state are they going to be in? I mean, they literally had an experience that is similar, like a PTSD. Like, they watched a teammate actually die on the field. His heart stopped. And so, what is their preparation like? Like, where are they at emotionally? I think Greg Bedard wrote this earlier in the week, but I'd imagine they're really hard conversations they're having with their loved ones and their families, because, that they just watched that happen. So I don't know. I mean, I'm glad they canceled it on Monday. I'm not really sure how you play a game.
Postponed so far.
Sorry. I'm glad they postponed it on Monday. I don't know how the Bills in particular play on Sunday, but I get it. Like, it's business and there's a lot of contracts and they move on. But this is really tough for me. I mean, I'll tell you what I don't have, which is a lot of excitement for like watching the Patriots on Sunday and worrying about the playoffs and this and that. I mean, I'm sure when the game comes around, I'll watch it. But I just think there are moments in life when the universe has a really powerful way of like stopping us in our tracks and asking us, like, what are we doing here? Like, what matters? And I think this is just one of those. And I probably will feel that way for the rest of my life, honestly. I will probably remember this moment. I was thinking about this today, but forever, Damar, like, people will know this name, Damar Hamlin, and he will be associated with this. And hopefully it's a story of triumph and survival. But I think this has got to ask us, even if it's not as grand as doing away with football, even some of the stuff Mike Davis you just alluded to, like, maybe it's time for a new way of thinking about players. Maybe it's a time for, breaking some more precedents, and just having a different conversation, I think, about, what it would look like to really balance the product with true player safety. And by the way, I think, this is like a tirade, like long-winded, but I think this is happening. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott, who are two younger coaches, generally speaking, their first thought was the mental health of their players. Like, I think society has shifted in this way some. It's still got a long ways to go, but like, kudos to them for their leadership, because I think they did go against the grain of the culture, the precedent of the culture, which is like, show must go on. But, what would it look like for that to be a more systematic approach? For these to be bigger conversations we're having about this game we love, this game that is so great. What would it look like to have an orientation and approach that doesn't make us choose the show must go on or player safety? And I just think these are some of the bigger questions that have been surfacing for me this week as I've thought about my own, fandom, and this game that I love that is always a contradiction for me. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at today.
I appreciate that.
One of those aspects of this game is what we call maybe the toxic masculinity, right? The fact that there's so much violence that some percentage of these players commit outside of the arena or the field, right? It's a small percentage, but it's certainly not zero. and it's been an ongoing one. And the fact that the sport has had such a high tolerance for that in the past, and it's still a much higher tolerance than, the rest of society has for it. Personally, Reggie Lewis was somebody who I knew at school. I knew him personally. So when he passed away, that affected me, right? It was real. Like, it was somebody I had a real relationship with. So that hasn't changed. I mean, God, what was that? 30, almost 40 years ago. Hasn't changed that much how college basketball or NBA basketball happens, right? I mean, there are some things. AEDs are there, right? I mean, if there were not AEDs on the field, there would have been a fatality, Monday night. So there has been some change, but I do feel like some of this risk will never be taken out of, whether it's high school or college or the pro game, and at what level risk are players allowed to take that risk, right? The CTE is going to affect way more of these players than these sort of small incidences, and just as tragic.
The characteristic of the game lends itself to exactly what you guys are talking about, the violence of the game. And if they're going to play the game the way they're, to Andrew's point, the American public loves the game. There's going to be violence in the game. I think the fact that they had such exceptional medical attention on the field on Monday night speaks to change. I mean, I think that it's come miles, whether or not it's where it needs to be yet or not. They saved the guy's life Monday night. I mean, and forget about, I get a little irritated when I'm hearing all these people blame, this guy for saying 5 minutes, or the NFL office for doing this or doing that. The bottom line is they saved the man's life. That's what has to be first and foremost. The emergency plan worked, probably to perfection if they saved the guy's life. So, I think that's what's got to be first and foremost. There's a lot of other things you can talk about. To Andrew's point, the ownership, as long as the ownership is what it is, player safety, I don't know. I don't know how, it's going to change.
I think that's probably where I agree with you from the medical standpoint, that there was, from the physiologically medical standpoint, that the first responders and the guys that responded and the upgrades and changes that we've seen are valid and they're good. I think where I got, and it took me a day to really reflect on it, where I was a bit, I don't know if shocked is the right word, but where I was a bit perplexed and disappointed, frankly, in the NFL the following day was the mental health aspect of, and to Andrew's point, I was really happy with McDermott and really and Taylor on how they handled it. But the mental aspect of the mental health of, hey, we get what you just saw, but you have 5 minutes and you got to get back after it. And here's the thing, for as much crap as social media gets and Twitter gets and all the places, and it's a cesspool at times. I guarantee, I shouldn't say guarantee. I actually tweeted about this the day after, as I was thinking about it. If we don't live in a social media era where there's immediate and constant and heavy public scrutiny on decisions, the game probably continues. But what happened is, in that moment, in the snap of a finger, someone at the office or at the NFL office or ownership or someone can get on their phone and say, oh, this isn't a good decision to continue based on how the public is responding to what's going on. Now, here's the problem. My issue with it is that in the moment, that I don't know how thought out that was as, hey, we're just going to continue the game. And I'd like the NFL to get to a point, and this is the player safety piece, where it says, instead of getting blowback on Twitter and now we have to make a decision, what's just the right decision for the players' mental health, physiological health, medical, anything in the moment, and let's just make that decision. Now, I get there's money involved. I understand there's fans involved, and that's very difficult. I would just like to see the NFL get to a point where that becomes primary instead of let's continue the game.
That's a great point. All these are great points. And I really appreciate the space being able to talk through this with y'all, because I've had these thoughts in my head all week, and between work and family life, I haven't thought through them. I want to bring a finer point to like my reflection. So my own personal working through hypocrisies, like that's my work to do, and I'll do it for the rest of my life. From thinking about this game and this league systematically, I actually think the point I want to try to thread a needle here, Dad. Like and Mike, you brought this up too, but the protocols the NFL has in place. I mean, I think we were texting about this actually in the thread, that like outside of being in a hospital, the next best place to have a cardiac arrest is on an NFL football field, because of the seriousness with which they've taken that in the protocols. That's real. And they did that. That's a system. Every field, every Sunday, that is in place. Well, and to your point, Dad, thank God it was, because it saved this man's life. I think the thing that I invite everybody to think about right now is that this doesn't have to be a binary, like an either or choice. Like the same way that Sean McDermott and Zach Taylor showed a generational shift in the way they think about the men in their locker room and their role as a leader of those men, is what I'm hungry for the league to do. like if they weren't thinking about what's going to be the impact of this on social media, what's going to be the dollar cost of this. They weren't even thinking about what's this going to mean for our playoff seeding. They were just thinking, I'm a leader of these men, and what they just experienced means I need to have the courage to step up now and say, yeah, we're not moving with this right now in that way. Every single NFL owner could do that. The league is way out of date. The NBA, even the NHL, like all the other leagues understand that their talent are human beings and that they make the product. The NFL is just in the dark ages. I mean, it really operates as the shield, and the teams and the owners are the thing that makes this thing go, and that the players are irreplaceable. And I think that's the thing that if that is what comes from this, that there's a groundswell of people who love the game, love the league, aren't trying to discard it or make an easy scapegoat, but say, yeah, you know what? 17-week season with one bye, maybe a terrible idea. No training camp where you really get to practice, horrible idea. The precedent that the show must go on, terrible idea. Like the fact that CTE is found in 99% of professional football players, and yet their health insurance only lasts 5 years when they get out of the league. It should be lifetime, guys. Like these are systematic changes that could be made tomorrow that would make the game a safer product. It is never going to be safe. There's always going to be violence. Every single time a football player in the NFL puts on a helmet, goes on the field, they're making the choice to be there. But there are things that can be done to actually compensate them and to make this a safer experience. And I think it actually would make a better product for the fans, to be honest with you. Like the only thing that would be hit on this is the bottom line. But even then you can make the argument it would stay around longer. The league will last longer. And so more money will be made. But these are the things, this is what I hope. When the shock of what we watched, when we figure out, when the games are going to happen, when they're not going to happen, hopefully Damar will be back to full health. Like, I hope what the conversation is from this is that. Like, what does this tell us about what we have versus what we could have? And do we have the courage to make those changes? The way the league is set up, that is going to really sit with 32 people. And really 32 people, because the commissioner works at the behest of those 32 people. Do they have the courage to make the changes that are necessary to take care of their employees? I mean, that really is what we're talking about here. And like I said, kudos to Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott, because I think they swam upstream and made a really courageous decision. But I'd love for the rest of the league to catch up.
And look, we're going to talk about Miami probably in a minute, but Tua had his third concussion, right? And walked off, played the game, whatever. And now it's, is he going to come back? Is he going to help us win? It's not. This guy's had his third concussion. He's looking at a lifetime of impacts. Nobody's sitting here saying this man cannot come back and play football. It's the product. It's the product. It's the how quickly can he get back? Can he help the team? That's what that same mentality of get back in the field and play.
Well, I'll take it a step further. And I'll admit guilt here because I'm with Andrew. There's a hypocrisy when it comes to NFL and life values like I say, I love the NFL and Dad, you and I've talked about this, and you coach high school football forever. Love the NFL. I played football, albeit not very long, but for a few years in high school. I never let my kids play football. They're not playing football. Like, it's just not happening. But I love the NFL and I cheer for it and I root for it. But my kids aren't going to play football because there's just no way even if they were big enough, they're not. But if they're big enough to play football, they ain't stepping on a football field. Now, granted, they get hurt playing other sports, and I understand that. But there's a piece of the hypocrisy that lies there. The other piece about it, though, and you just hit on it, Mike, is talking about Tua's head injury. I can look at a text right now from Sunday where I'm texting Andrew about DraftKings lineup. And I'm talking about Justin Fields hoping that he didn't have a concussion so he can get back in the game and hopefully win us some money. Well, the problem is that he was probably concussed, which is why he looked terrible when he came back into the game. But I didn't give a crap about it because all I cared about was wanting a better product, to your point, Mike, and possibly winning some money off of a fantasy lineup that really doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't. Like I look, and honestly, and I'll say this and then I'll pass it because I know we got a lot of folks who want to jump in. This is what Andrew was alluding to. I think, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong. But in the moment of reflection, when I watched on Monday what happened to Damar Hamlin, I felt the guilt. I stopped for a minute and went, oh, man, like, it didn't feel very good to see the guy laying on the ground. And then I literally thought back about Sunday and went, man, you get so sucked into the system. You get so pulled into the action and into all of it that you forget. Complicit. Yeah, you forget. Yeah, exactly. Complicit's a great word. You forget it in the moment. But as I'm reflecting on it, I'm going, damn, I care. I wanted this guy who's a human being to get put back into a game who probably had a head injury so I could potentially win money. Like, that's just think about that. That doesn't feel good to think about, right?
I think to that point and to what we've been talking about, that's where what Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott did is phenomenal. I mean, those guys want their players in the game. They want to win the game. They're worried about the playoffs. The human element showed on Monday night when those guys walked across the field and Taylor said to McDermott, I'll do whatever you want to do. And McDermott said, we're not going back out there.
And how many folks think if that was a battle of two teams whose coaches were, at risk of being terminated, would they have had the same courage? Both of those guys are very secure in their position.
I mean, they're both sitting
at the top, but they're sitting at the top of their divisions right now, right? Can you imagine if this was, the Lions versus Miami right now that's lost 5 in a row? Would they have had the same courage of their convictions with their jobs on the line that those two coaches had?
I understand, but I think that's where the younger guys kind of get it in that theater. And
we're talking about young coaches too, right?
Right, but I just think it's those guys showed a lot. And hey, I know those guys are at the top of the heap right now, but at the end of the day, they were more concerned about their player.
Yep.
I saw, and what got me Monday night, what hit home with me Monday night was the guys on the field, the other players, the teammates with the real emotion. This wasn't, theatrical emotion on the sideline, on the field. These guys were scared. They were hurting. That to me is what has got me the most. Well, seeing these guys.
I mean, I'm watching and this isn't, but we already talked about the 5-minute thing, but literally to your point, Dad, I'm watching the game they say they're coming. And the announcers, I mean, Buck and Aikman, and I mean, they're trying to navigate through this. They kick it back to the studio. You got, I think it was Susie Colbert and Schefter and Booger McFarland. They didn't know what to say. I mean, you don't know what to say because it's crazy, right? So they get back onto the field. They say, hey, we got 5 minutes to warm up, so on and so forth. Well, Burrow's throwing. They show a clip of, you can find this. You show a clip of Burrow. He's throwing because he's like, I mean, you got to get back on the field, right? And then they show a clip right after that of Josh Allen sitting on the bench, looking straight ahead into nothing. Like just eyes open, tears running down his face. And I'm thinking to myself, there's not a chance in hell he's warming back up. And he shouldn't have to. And it hit me in that moment to see him to go, oh God, he's not putting his helmet back. And it washed over me the moment of true emotion, which is what I think you're illustrating. And it's true. It was different.
Well, I can tell you this. I'm glad they postponed the game Monday night because I'm not sure what would have happened had they told those guys, you got to go back out there in 5 minutes. Because I have a feeling I know what would have happened. Not many of them would have gone back out there.
No, I think that's part of the issue is they forced the,
and the coaches do. The coaches knew, and the coaches, I mean, McDermott said, we're not going out there. And apparently they've left it to him and his team as to whether they play this week.
Yeah.
So, who knows what happens. The other thing I must say this, and we probably need to move on because Mike's got a call, but what about T. Higgins?
That's right.
I mean, I hope someone's
I'm sure
having a hard conversation with him because that's a tough situation right there for him from mental health from a mental health standpoint. He didn't do anything wrong, but I mean, he was involved with what happened to the guy. So, I mean, that's another thing.
No, it's a good point to bring up. I've thought a lot about him in the last few days too. And I know I've read a lot about exactly what you just said, Dad, which is, he was, and it's tough. He's gonna have to deal with that in his mind. And to your point, I'm hoping that he's had those conversations with someone that cares about him, a professional, just to be able to process through that.
Yep.
Because that's tough.
And Mike, I'll just say, I mean, of my generation, it's just always been expected of us that you just move ahead. You just keep going, right? You lose your parent, you lose whatever, you shake it off. You go back to work. That is not just the NFL, right? That's been sort of the status quo. It doesn't mean it's right. It's the way it's generationalized, right? It's new, it's better, but there's a whole lot of people out there whose response to everything bad happening is put your head down and go to work.
Yeah.
Get focused on what you can control, which is work. And so that's why some of the people on that field are going to have no trouble popping in there and just doing their job because it'll take everything else off their mind.
Yeah,
that's right.
All right. Yeah. I mean, look, I think the important thing is, and we won't even really get into the game on Sunday. That was kind of part of the plan, and who knows if we even have a game this Sunday. I think that the important thing is Damar Hamlin's health, his family, thoughts and prayers going out to him, and the mental health of the Bills players and the other teams that have probably looked at this, felt their own mortality and have to deal with that, and hopefully you're speaking to the right people. But yeah, I think if we know a game's going on Sunday, if we find out, maybe we sit down and do another pod and discuss that. But right now I just think probably the most important thing is just great conversation, great, smart, well thought out points. And just keep praying for Damar Hamlin. How's that sound? Good. All right, guys. Well, let's keep hopefully the positive updates keep coming for him, and hopefully we'll see everybody soon.